back to Conversations with Therapists, where me and my co-host Alyssa from TME Brand Marketing talk to mental health therapists about the world of marketing and building their private practice. We go deep into what makes their private practice unique, what makes it successful, and the challenges that they've overcome.
Today we have Nicole Bravo, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist in the Los Angeles area. So you specialize in women's wellness, trauma recovery from a certain type of trauma. We'll kind of talk about that. And then helping individuals who are dealing with a breast cancer diagnosis, whether it's in the family or whether it's themselves or, past, current, whatever it may be, because there's a lot of mental health around that people don't talk about. I have had the privilege of getting to work on her website, so I'm really excited that we get to talk about it and kind of talk to you and get to know you more. So yeah, we'll just jump right in. Hi,
Let's do
Nicole.
it. I'm excited.
Okay, so I want to start with your background because I think you're a millennial kind of in that area. So
hmm
you kind of already really niched into these kind of pockets of therapy. So I want to talk about like how you got there and why you're like, this is the route I wanted to go.
Yeah, for therapy in general.
Yeah, for therapy.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that I was kind of that like therapist friend. I held the therapist role in the families at a young age was kind of part that my calling was known, I guess, at a young age.
That's awesome.
But in addition to that, yeah, I feel like I've always been really interested in self-discovery, like even in my own life, I've always been kind of like a seeker and just trying to look into kind of like the depths of things and understand myself better. And so I just had such a value for that. And that I think has been the driving force for me to go into therapy to establish my own private practice. That's kind of what I believe in and why I think therapy is so special. So I'd also highlight that as well.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
that's so cool.
We've been working with therapists for a few years now and hear all kinds of conversations, but I really feel like this year, we've only had like 5 weeks but in the last year, we have really heard more therapists focusing on women's health and like very unique issues, and it's coming from all different places. We've heard somebody talking about the stress of women's careers and their endless task list and how that can even like affect their health. And we've heard more about women transitioning, life transitions and menopause and all kinds of stuff. So what led you into specifically female wellness and empowerment?
Well, I guess you kind of touch on it a bit. For women's mental health, there are such unique challenges there. And I just feel like when I was working with women, when I was working with clients, I just was noticing that was such a key part of the story of, the pressures, like women kind of like pressured to start families or yeah, like being in a career that's mostly men and just kind of the anxiety that comes from a woman holding that role. So I just found that was so essential to cover, along with maybe general anxiety or along with maybe general pressure that they were feeling. So that's kind of what sparked it for me of in order to provide quality care, I just felt like that had to be kind of focused on.
Yeah. Do you feel like a lot of the anxieties that your clients are coming with, not necessarily anxieties, but like maybe anxiety stressors, that stuff are work related or like society related, or are they just kind of coming at them from all angles? Because, the Barbie movie really highlighted that like being a woman is
Yeah.
really hard.
Yes.
Is it
Yeah, definitely.
generational that you think, or where's it all
Sorry,
coming?
what was that? I didn't hear. I spoke
Is it
over
all
you.
generational for women, or like where's all these pressures coming from? I mean, over and over you hear that it's unique to women and like men are kind of
Mhm.
hanging out. We love men.
I think that for me, what I notice, I think it is a lot societal. Like I think that, and of course, everyone has their different kind of versions of it, but I think that there's this expectation for women to have this like softness, this like kindness, the selflessness, that's also a big part of the role that's taught. When we're taught that and shaped with those sort of qualities or values, it's really hard when you're in a professional context and it's just mismatching, right? Or with working with breast cancer, when you're in a medical context and you're trying to be kind and sweet and gentle, but you need to get stuff done. You need to get the quality of care that kind of fits what you're there for. So that's what I find a lot of is this like kind of contorting to this like, okay, I don't want to be too much, I don't want to be too little, but also I have a life that I want to live and I have things that I have to do.
Yeah.
Now, we've heard a lot about women just like feeling the need to earn their mental health, to earn their
Hmm.
relaxation, to like,
Yeah, like if you don't work hard enough, have you earned your break? And it's like that's
Hmm.
kind of a bad
Yeah.
way of thinking of a break because there's more than just like a physical need to rest.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think there's such a, I don't know, I think that speaks for itself, right? When we're valuing ourselves and caring for ourselves, we shouldn't be earning any of that.
Yeah.
That's just part of the deal.
Yeah.
so how does that fit in when you do get hit with a diagnosis, a breast cancer diagnosis, or some sort of other health related issue? What's the impact when we're already struggling?
Well, as far as impact goes, I mean, I think it just makes for additional challenges. It's hard enough to be hit with a diagnosis of that like vastness, right? So then on top of that, to be what I find a lot with my clients is that there's this like, okay, here's a big thing that I have to handle and get treatment for, and I actually am forced to prioritize myself. I have no choice. I have to fight, I have to rest, I have to do all of these things. And it's really uncomfortable because I'm either not expected to kind of put others first or put others ahead of me, or I'm just not used to that. I feel selfish doing that. I feel bad. I feel like I'm letting my partner down. I feel like I'm not being a solid mother, right? So there's a lot of stuff that I feel like in my work there, I mean, understanding that makes sense, especially if that's such a deep societal learning. And if we've lived a life that kind of lined up with that, it makes a ton of sense that that's coming forward. And then my work a lot is to help with that assertiveness and even that I like to think of my work as it's permission, right? It's kind of saying, hey, you matter. It's okay for you to take space at this time in your life. If not with a diagnosis like this, then what?
Yeah. Well, and I think so. Obviously, I have a little bit of a leg up than anybody else listening because I designed your website and we talked a lot about it. What kind of, you wanted to convey a lot of like female empowerment, like confidence and stuff and through the site. And I just think that that's so important. But like, what kinds of things are your clients coming to that maybe they don't realize is like a lack of confidence, but maybe it is like a lack of confidence?
Hmm.
So, like, what are you seeing a lot of?
I see a lot of women who, indecision is coming forward for me, where it's kind of like, okay, well, maybe this is it, maybe this is what we explore, but there's just this like, I want this, or I can't quite decide. I'm really, maybe even I'm like nervous to actually have that sort of like assertive stance with this is where I want to go, this is what I want to do. So a lot of that, I also think that, let's see, I'm trying to think in like simple terms, but when when we just find, this is a good way to put it, when there's like different parts of us that are kind of like, here's like my work self, here's my self in a relationship, here's who I am around my family, here's that can also be an indicator of like, well, what about you, right? Like what's kind of that authentic form of yourself, and are there potentially some masks that we're wearing when we're in this context and that context and there? And that's not bad to say. We do kind of have to like code switch to that degree, but when we're doing that a lot, and if we don't get a chance to actually just kind of come to ourselves, then that's really challenging.
Yeah. What age range are you working with primarily? Like for that instance, not necessarily the breast cancer stuff, because we can talk about that, but
Yeah, I think that a lot of that age is kind of like early teens age period, maybe even a bit younger, like kind of adolescent age. But yeah, just when that's kind of really developing and on like kind of feels like there's a spotlight on that of confidence and just kind of like who you are. So yeah, like the 20s to like adolescent age.
yeah. I mean, those are some big life transitions too. Like you're going from like maybe, a kid to a teenager and then a teenager to like, oh shit, I'm on my own. I gotta be in college without my mom there and
Yep,
my parents there to wash my laundry or keep me on a schedule. And then they kind of graduate and they're like, I got college down. Now I have to learn a whole new skill, which is working and
yep, yeah.
all of that. And then I guess you compound that with like a relationship or
Mhm.
multiple relationships and it just kind of comes at you. Yeah, I think it's a big that was a big transition point for me. So I can't
Mhm.
imagine like not how much better I would have been equipped, but maybe if I had known like, oh, maybe I could like talk to somebody about like all of this crap that's happening to me right now.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. And I noticed that with in our sessions when there are people who are going through these key life changes, even just to like catch up with your thoughts, right? Of like, okay, this is my plan. Okay, this is what I'm thinking. But actually, I don't know if I really want to go that route, or I don't know about this aspect of the plan. So it really is helpful to just kind of pause and go, okay, this is all that I've been up to. This is kind of how I'm seeing my next step. And then to be able to kind of like take action from there.
Yeah.
So you talk a lot about going beyond surface level solutions, like really peeling back the layers of your clients, finding the why for them, with them. Do
Mhm.
you feel that this is a different way of doing things than maybe other practices? And does that have to do with your specialty?
I think that I guess the value I place on it feels different to me. Um, yeah, because and I think it is part of my specialties as well. I just really, again, I value that self-discovery aspect to therapy. And so what I do a lot in that realm is that I mean, all therapists are listening, but I think I look or I listen through a lens of what this says about the person, what that says about their values, what's important to them. And so how we get to the why, I I mean, of course, there has to be some trust that's built. We have to go at a pace that kind of fits for a client, but I'm also just really listening and getting some information that once we have built that trust, then I'm kind of offering these connections or these ideas or thoughts or just things that I've been a witness to as far as their presence in session that I think take us to a deeper level or I think is feedback that maybe a lot of my clients, they kind of haven't been seen in that way of like, wow, you're right. That does capture, you're right. I do really value my friends and that's a huge part of who I am. And so that's kind of my work. And I think that that's like, I just want that to be a really high value in my sessions and I want that to show forward.
Yeah, I think that's cool. Okay, so we've talked a little about, we're going to go back to the breast cancer one in just a minute, but we've talked a lot about the like, are most of these people that you're seeing, are they single people or are they kind of, yes, they're single or yes, they're in a relationship, but it's not like far along? Like what is your demographic for that part of your therapy, you think?
Yeah, I guess it can vary. Do as part of kind of that women confidence and empowerment work, I do tend to see, or I like to see women who are single and who are just feeling the pressures of that. They're
Yeah, without
ready
adding
for a
on
really,
that relationship.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of like, I guess, like the woman's societal pressure um in their story is that of like, I want to find a relationship. It feels like more pressured for me to do so. I have the biological clock that I'm up against, right? So yeah, I do a lot of work as far as that goes. I also do see people who maybe are in relationships and they're having a hard time asserting themselves, getting their needs met. So I see both, but I guess that just kind of like briefly highlighting what
Yeah.
they're coming in for.
Okay, and then you also have a third specialty in there that we haven't talked about yet, and that you kind of shifted from
Hmm.
when you first came to us, and then we talked through. But so that is women again kind of coming out of either toxic relationships or like
Hmm.
specifically narcissistic relationships or abuse. What does that look like? Like what is kind of, I mean, again, I would imagine it's a full confidence like rebuild almost because
Yeah,
what they're coming from. But
there's some similarities there, but in that work, well, first and foremost, there has to be a healing element, right? Like,
right.
what did I just experience in this relationship that there's kind of just a catching up that has to happen. Yes, there's this processing of I just kind of endured that, or what was that? That was hard. All of that kind of comes first. And then from there, yeah, this reconnecting with yourself, because typically these are relationships where you had to go small, you had to adapt to fit it, to kind of get through it. And that is such beautiful work. I love doing that work because it is this like coming back to yourself, this, that's right. I did love to do this and I haven't done this in so long. I haven't painted in so long. And it's this kind of like helping this person get back to their interests, their hobbies. It's also really, and this is kind of where it overlaps with self-confidence, but it's also finding their voice again of like when you've been in a abusive, narcissistic relationship, there's this kind of like we have to like deep like untangle almost like, oh, that was the relationship. Let's leave that. That's you. There you are, right? That's you talking. So in our work, along with helping them kind of reconnect with their interests and stuff, it's a lot of finding their voice, me highlighting that when I see it, and just kind of building from there.
Yeah.
Is that kind of your method, looking for opportunities to say, "Oh, there you are.
Hmm.
Let's talk about what was just said in session," or "Oh,
Yeah,
interesting. You haven't even mentioned that before. That sounds like something you enjoy."
yeah,
That positivity that you're kind of repeating.
yeah, yeah. And that kind of encompasses just, I guess, my form of therapy. I really believe in the therapy space as when we're in that, when we're in practice of that, when we feel like we have a space where we could be ourselves, the therapy space, that can generalize outwards, that can generalize in these other contexts of a person's life. So, yeah, it is a lot of let's use this as a safe space to really be in that. Let's build at that. Let's stay there. There you are. That's who you are. Let's kind of be there. When we're there, that's where confidence can build, and then that's where it can kind of go elsewhere with the person.
Do you have any methods for how you can extend that outside of your therapy sessions,
That's what I was gonna
especially
ask. Oh my gosh.
especially with women who
Right.
are have made themselves small, coming out of abusive situations? They obviously
Hmm.
need a lot of external validation. They
Yeah,
may not
like
have support groups if they've
how
burned
do they
bridges.
come from this like super supportive hour-long session to like,
Hmm.
Surviving.
yeah, to go back out in the world and like use that, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm sure
So,
it takes time.
of of course, yes, but I mean, the initial thing that comes to mind for me, or at least when I think about strategies, there is we want to start small. We want to find these like small ways. It doesn't have to be like a giant, okay, I was so vulnerable in this therapy session. Now I have to go be vulnerable with my friend that I'm still unsure about, right? Like it's not leaps like that. It really can be just, okay, I'm going to commit to stating my preference one time this week. I'm gonna, oh, this is a good one. I'm actually gonna choose what I want to eat for dinner, right? Like
Yeah.
instead
That's
of
a good
the,
one.
I don't care, whatever. No, I'm actually gonna push myself and I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna sit. I'm gonna spend as much time as I need to, and I'm gonna make that choice. I'm gonna go inward and I'm gonna go, what actually am I craving? What do I feel like? And I'm going to voice that. I'm gonna express that. So finding these small ways that we can do that and it doesn't have to be such a big commitment, but to do that and to just start building from there, that's super impactful.
Yeah.
So you're essentially helping them switch to the I perspective. What do I want? What do I feel like? What is in my brain rather than them guessing what do they want? What do you want? What do you
Mhm.
expect of me?
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
thing. I love that.
Yeah. Or even displaying this, like, I don't care, whatever. I'm in the background. No, right? Your preference matters. It's
You have value. You're worthy of not just being in the background.
exactly. And just kind of having whatever the other person wants for dinner.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you were like, it can't be a big leap. And I'm like, why can't it be a big leap? And I'm like, oh, because they can't handle a big leap yet. But like going to a coffee shop and saying, I do not want coffee today. I want,
Hmm.
because I hate coffee. Like maybe that is
Why are
their,
they at the coffee shop?
just because they were forced to go. I don't know. I don't know. Had to pick
Illuminate.
up coffee for everybody else and, whatever it may be kind of a thing.
They're
Yes.
not gonna drink coffee.
Yeah.
That's not what they be like.
The other part of that is like, what part are they or what part of their relationship are they usually coming to you with? Are they already out of that relationship? Are they like, how are you getting those people in your door, I guess, virtual
I
door?
think a lot of them are out of the relationship. They've left it and they're really in need of kind of like healing, to rebuild, to go forward. I also get a lot of people who maybe have had the relationship in their past. They have moved forward. They're maybe in a new relationship or a different time in their life, but they're kind of feeling haunted by that relationship. It's still showing up. There's maybe difficulties with trust or just general fear in relationships. So they're noticing that. And so they're coming in kind of saying, help me heal from this so I can be my best self in this new relationship that is way different and a person that I really love and appreciate. So I get a lot of that. I do get some people who are in the relationship, but not as much because I don't know, that takes a different stance. You
Yeah,
kind
because
of,
then you're kind
it's
of
a
like
survival
working
stance.
them. Yeah, you're working them towards potentially like the end of the relationship versus like,
Yes.
okay, I've done the relationship, now I need to move on. Because
Yes.
what
Yeah.
happened, like, have you noticed what would happen, like, if they don't kind of heal from it, like if they just kind of end it and they're like, I don't like being single, I can't do this, and they kind of jump back into it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a cycle pattern with that too.
Well, I mean, that's one way of it, right? Is this like this discomfort in being single or on your own. And so then there's this jumping back into the relation, like the dynamic that they're used to. There's a familiarity to it. So they're kind of going back into it where, yeah, healing can be okay. I have kind of a wholeness to myself. I feel solid on my own and any relationship, whether that be a romantic relationship, a friendship, a colleague, anyone who I'm inviting into my life, they're just kind of this bonus to this life that I have built. And so I'm not coming in from this area of like needing to fill or complete myself. I feel complete. So the people who I'm bringing in, they tend to be really complementary. They tend to be nice additions, not something else,
Scary.
not
How have you
scary.
attracted your client base? Did you have any challenges finding, connecting, and really building your practice?
I was speaking at the beginning of your can you repeat the question?
Oh, sorry. How did you actually find your client base? How are they finding you? Did you have challenges attracting the people you want to work with? Are you still having challenges? How are you building this practice for them?
Yeah, yes and no. I think that I mean part of going private practice was when I did, it was this kind of like, okay, how do I want to connect with my clients? How do I want to put myself out there in the world? And I do think I'm in a rebuild right now. I mean, with my website, with the help from you all, right? I've used directories. I've kind of gone the general, I don't know, therapist route to
Wow.
that degree. But right now I am trying to rebuild in a more, I guess, focused way. I really do want to use my website. I really want to put myself out there. I want to blog more. I really want my voice to be kind of heard and known and recognized in its own way. And again, that's kind of a new path for me, leaving that like directory kind of
Yeah.
route to here.
It's something that we have talked to a lot of therapists about because I mean, it's scary. It's like this big, vast, like ocean, and you kind of have to just like jump in, but you have to jump
Hmm.
in strategically, I guess. You
Yeah,
want to jump in like a part that's full of other people doing the same thing,
yeah.
or other people maybe doing not the same thing, and you're getting referrals from sources you don't really want.
Jumping where your clients are, where the correct fish
Yeah,
are.
where all the correct.
Are we going back to fishing
Yeah, it
metaphors?
is. It
It
really is
always
like one
comes
of the
back to
best ones. It's one of the
it.
best.
I love metaphors, so go for it.
They help a lot of therapists, like, when we're building their sites and stuff, it's kinda like, "Okay, so this is, like, your curb appeal. This is what you
Hmm.
want people your homepage is your curb appeal." So, like, if they don't think your outside is pretty, they may not wanna knock on your door and, like, come tour the house, like an open house.
If you're not talking to the people you actually want to work with, they're
Yeah.
not the ones that are coming to you.
Yeah, so
Hmm.
I think that, kind of honing in on those fields for you, those 3 groups. I mean, it's all women, so it's all like, yes, that's your blanket, but then like having these little pockets, I think was really helpful in terms of who you're talking to so people can know like when they get there, like
So it sounds like you have your website, you have your messaging, and now it's all about how you use it in a way to maximize reach to the people that you want to talk to.
yeah,
That's complicated.
it is. It's complicated, but I think, you have a leg up than most people with the thoughts. Okay, I want to talk about your breast cancer therapy because that is something that I would assume people at your age aren't focusing on, um,
Hmm.
because that hasn't either affected them or happened to them. So how did you get into that? Why did you get into that? Because I think that's
Yeah.
really cool.
So my mom had breast cancer when I was younger. So it was a part of my world, and even at my age there is this kind of like knowing that's in the background and just kind of the treatment and how to be on top of that monitoring.
Mhm.
But why I brought that into my practice and why I wanted to focus on it is I just felt like it was underserved too. Like I look at my experience and just in my family, I mean my mom's experience and then my family's experience, and it was just it was a scary time. It was such a scramble, and the benefit of having someone come in who had knowledge and expertise and just the ability to kind of make these calls for the person and then indirectly the family, that would have been so helpful. I really did want to make sure that was a part of my practice. I also would say it really does connect with the women's wellness passion that I have, because I think I mentioned this earlier, but there's working with women going through breast cancer treatment, there is this like, wow, I have to put my needs first. I have to show up in this assertive way and I have to ask for help and I have to do all of these things. It also really overlaps with the confidence piece of I have to adapt to body changes. It challenges femininity for me because of the body parts that are affected, right? I just felt like it really captured a lot of these areas that, again, felt really important and underserved.
Yeah. So what part of the therapy journey, what part of the breast cancer journey are you helping with? Like, are you the one that's helping them make those tough calls, or like, here's your like, here's what you need to do. Okay, let's how to do them, or where do you come into that? Like,
Hmm.
what can they expect if they're maybe they don't know that they need that, but they're listening and they're like, oh my gosh, I need that.
Yeah. I work through all the different phases. So during treatment, it's a lot of I want this to be a space where you can just talk about everything that you're going through and you don't have to filter it. There's so much that, I mean, that's another thing. You're experiencing something really scary. There's a ton of fear within that. And then there's this having to filter or be gentle with family members or friends, or because they're scared too. I mean, there's a ripple effect there. So for our sessions to even just be a place where it's like, I don't have to do that. I don't have to wear the mask. I could just say exactly what I'm thinking. I could say exactly what I'm feeling. And I'm going to utilize that. That's a big part of my work. I also having some knowledge here. I mean, I'm not a medical professional, right? So there's obviously things that I don't speak to, but I do know in general of like, okay, this person should be a part of your team and kind of, okay, you're coming in, this is your issue, this is your challenge, this is your question. Let's go here. Why don't we go here? Why don't we do that? So there is some knowledge and maybe some facilitating or like pointing in the right direction that I think can be
Yeah,
really valuable.
I think that's amazing.
So that's during, and then I do want to highlight after, kind of like transitioning out. That's a whole other realm where it's like, okay, I've overcome this, and then now I'm stepping back into my life, but I'm not really stepping back into because everything has changed. None of this looks the same. So now I'm in this complete restructuring of my life, my body, my relationships, and I'm trying to figure out what my new normal is, what my new day-to-day looks like. And then that's where the work comes in there of us kind of rebuilding.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't even imagine. And you work with both the patient and then do you work with like if you had a patient then came in and their partner wanted to then come see you, is that a common
Yeah,
practice, or is that
definitely.
something that you're like, yeah, bring them in. Like let's do both because they're going through the physical, but then the partner's going through the like emotional as well, and like, this is my person, or this is my mom, or whatever it may be, and that's
Mm,
a different level of like scary, I guess.
yes, yes. And I do work with that. It's a different, I guess, like point from like cancer diagnosis, but it's very scary. It has its own complications. So I do offer that as well.
Yeah. I was researching for your website because I had to, and there was not. I mean, like there you type in therapy with breast cancer and it comes up with like physical therapy and like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's one or two maybe random things, but it doesn't talk about like the importance of seeing a therapist. It's more just like this may affect your mental health because your body is changing. It's like, well, no shit, but like,
Yeah, of course. I got that far.
what now? Like, I can't, like, your medical team is going to do this part of it, but they're not the mental part of it. Like, and I
Yeah,
think that it's really cool that you're, kind of bridging the gap, I guess, because it is. I mean, it like really messes with you, I think. And
yeah.
how could it not?
There's so much that goes into that. And I was surprised too. I when I was researching and looking into that myself of like again when I wanted this to be a specialty, I who is doing this work, who can I speak to, who can I kind of connect with? And there wasn't a lot out
No.
there. And yeah, I mean you speak to it already, but there is so much that goes into it, and there's so many, just so many mental health impacts that happen from such a diagnosis like that. And again, that's from the fear inducing elements to getting a diagnosis, the treatment, and then also the transition afterwards. Like it's to transition back into, or to transition into your body, into like reconnect with your body or in these new ways. It's just, there's so many different mental health impacts.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Like, I literally am thinking just over like all the different areas and where that would affect, especially like, if you were in like a long-term marriage or whatever, and you're like, well, what do we do? And you're like, that partner may not understand the same struggles that you're having when
Yeah.
you maybe potentially cut off a whole part of your body.
Yes, exactly. In the look of it, right? Like it to have your body looking differently, it impacts even like comfort and sex and intimacy and a lot of that. Yeah, you're right. I find myself like, I feel like I'm being vague in general, but it's because there's so many different
Right.
directions that this can go into. And just with my work alone, it's I don't know, there's just been different places we've gone that have left me with this idea of, wow, this is so underserved. This is not talked about nearly enough. And I can only imagine the different versions of that out there that I
Yeah.
haven't even seen yet.
Oh,
Yeah, it
yeah, for
sounds
sure.
like you have a heavy caseload. It sounds like you really get in it and dive personally deep into their stories and trying to find them. So I have to ask, how do you take care of yourself and prevent
Mm,
burnout in your work?
Yeah, like how do you take a step back out of that when I mean, obviously you need to because
yeah,
it would be difficult.
that's a good question. And that's always, for me, that has been a struggle. It can be really hard to kind of, especially if there's a client who is in the midst of something, and to kind of reach an end and to say, oh, okay, thinking about you, see you next week. It is really hard. There are a lot of, I'll say, like, I guess practices that I do. I'm very big in like physical activity that help me disconnect, and I love hiking. I love being outdoors, yoga. I do all of these kind of practices that I do get really intentional with. If I have a hard session, I go, okay, this is a weekend where I'm scheduling a hike and I'm making sure that I make time for that.
Yeah.
I also will say, in addition to that though, I've been really teaching myself that although it's a lot to carry and you're leaving someone in maybe a scary moment, it's that they're more than capable of handling it. They're strong, they can get through it. I'm trying to tap into that, and I'm trying to teach myself that I can let go. This is their life. And I think that comes from this empowerment that I want to teach women too, is that I want to embody that as well, of like, I'm here, they can reach out to me, they know that I'm here, but I believe in them. I believe in their ability to get through this bind, to get through this week, to get through this moment, and we will come back the following week. They'll tell me all about it. I'll offer the support then, but they can do it. So I
Yeah.
have to remind myself that a lot too.
Yeah. I can imagine that's hard too. Like, okay, you're leaving, but it's not the end of the world. Like, it'll be okay. And then kind of like they leave, you close the door, and you're like, okay, it's not the end of the world. Like, they're gonna be,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah, I think that would be hard. But okay, so on the flip side, what do you think is the most rewarding part of being a therapist, especially with the clientele that you see or for you?
Ah, the most rewarding. That makes me go to, like, I think about the sessions that I have with my clients, and I think about session one, where it's like, okay, we did all of the work to get in, they completed the paperwork, we had our first session, they shared some background with me, and then we're closing the session. It's just that, like, that relief that you see. I mean, some of these clients that I see, they've been holding on to this stuff for years, for a long time. So it's so rewarding to just to give someone the space to like put this down, or like, can you help me carry this for a second, right? Like, let me just offer this for a tiny bit. I can like stretch a little bit. I could feel just a little respite. That is so rewarding to see. Kind of like you could see the body language shift in a client of, oh, that felt good. Yeah, it's in that that is so rewarding every single time I see it. That is the reminder of, yes, this is why we do this work. This is why it's so important.
Yeah, I love that. All right, well, awesome. Thank you, Nicole, so much for being on this with us. I really enjoyed getting to talk to you more. I know we've talked a lot with the website, but this was kind of more about you and your personal preferences with work and all that stuff. So I found it really cool.
Yeah.
But okay, so if you guys want to check out Nicole, you're licensed in California, right? And you're
Yes.
virtual. So that's it's a big state of people. And we're gonna link all of her stuff down below. And yeah, thank you again for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All
Thank you,
right.
Nicole.
We'll see you guys next time.